Welcome back to Yumper and Swole's 31 Days of Horror, presented to you by the Tank Glove Network. We got a classic today that doesn't get talked about enough, the 1979 science fiction horror film, Phantasm. Before even getting into the film, the reason I said it doesn't get talked about enough is we have the three, or the unholy three as I call them, of monster movie characters, at least in my generation. You have Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Leatherface. They're probably the biggest three known to the horror fans and horror genre as of today. But somebody that doesn't get talked about enough is the character of the Tall Man, played by Angus Scrimm. While Freddy can play the character of being funny at times as well as a ruthless killer, and Jason you could be sympathetic for, as well as Leatherface, you can also be sympathetic for him as you understand that he is basically a man-child. The character of the Tall Man is totally different. He's maniacal, he's very calculating, and very cold. And English actor Angus Scrimm does a great job of portraying him. You can just totally see through his expressions, the way he walks, the way he even moves his body, of how creepy he is. His voice is very intimidating, and the way he talks, and meaning the speech pattern he uses, is also very, very intimidating and makes you feel uneasy. The 1979 Phantasm film was directed by Don Coscarelli, who is probably well known for his movie Beastmaster or Bubba Hotep. The film centers around the Tall Man, and he is being stopped by two characters named Mike and his older brother Jody, along with their friend Reggie. The movie basically opens up at a funeral for Jody and Reggie's friend Tommy, who was killed in the first scene of the movie by a lady in lavender. At this time, they think that Tommy actually killed himself, but as we see in the first scene, we know that isn't the case. Mike is not invited to the funeral due to having some traumatic stress over his parents passing away weeks earlier, but he still goes and sees a Tall Man throw a casket in the hearse by himself, basically picking it up off the floor, which he finds odd and runs away. As we fast forward through the movie more, Mike is continuously following Jody around. Jody actually is picked up by the lady in lavender at a bar, and they go to the graveyard to try to have sex, but Mike follows them. At this time, when Jody and the lady in lavender are on top of a gravestone, Mike is actually attacked by some hooded druid creatures that chase him away, and he runs past Jody while he's with Lady in Lavender. And this is a pretty funny scene just for the acting alone. Now, the acting in this movie is not that great. Besides Angus Scrimm, who does an excellent job as a Tall Man, as I explained earlier, the other actors are not quite as good. And this is understandable as this is Don Coscarelli's first film. One of the things though that makes up for the acting is the beautiful scenery. The scenes of the mausoleum when Jody is actually there for the funeral are beautifully shot, and they're beautifully done in terms of the way they're designed. They're creepy, and it's actually done on a very low budget, which I thought was astonishing. Another part of the movie that makes up for the bad acting is actually the part of the flying ball or silver BB that gets shot through the sky, that actually attaches itself to a host, drilling into his skull and having blood pour out the other end. It's a real cool effect for 1979, and it's still pretty gory. So that's a pretty cool part of the movie. It also has its iconic scenes. Besides the part of the discus following and killing people, you actually have the Tall Man's pose, his verbiage as when he screams boy at Mike, as well as the famous scene of when Mike is sleeping having a nightmare with the Tall Man actually standing over his bed and then calling two corpses to pull him into graves in a graveyard. That scene was actually voted by TV America one of the scariest scenes in all of movies, which I thought was pretty cool. Again, this movie is not to be taken seriously in terms of acting, as it's not a greatly acted piece, but it does have a lot of scenery and nice atmosphere to go around with it. You can understand why people love this movie so much, as it's not straightforward, it has constant scary action in it, and it has great acting from Angus Scrimm, which the character alone makes you want to watch the movie. So if you haven't checked this one out, I highly recommend you check it out. I mean, it spawned 4 sequels, so it's got to be somewhat interesting, and the original is always my favorite. So be here to check it out, guys. And with that, thank you again for watching. Check out the for more blogs and 31 Days of Horror, along with our podcast from myself and Swole, as well as the Tan Glove Mothership. We'll see you in the next one, guys.